This is Brent, president of B2C Fitness, and we're talking about anterior oblique subsystem integration. Now, your anterior oblique subsystem is your external oblique, continuous with your abdominal fascia, continuous with the opposite adductor. Now, the function of this subsystem, just like all other subsystems, is to help us transfer force between our lower and upper halves. In the case of the anterior oblique subsystem, it supports our anterior kinetic chain. So anytime we do legs with pushing, it keeps us from going backwards this way, as well as it helps to turn in our kinetic chain. Now, we could start using anterior oblique subsystem integration exercises for anybody who we want to increase in strength in pushing motions. Let's say we have a football lineman. Football linemen have to explode, push from their legs, transfer that force up into their arms to push off. So our integrated exercise, which is going to be legs with push, might be great for somebody like that. In this video, however, we're going to talk about where anterior oblique subsystem integration plays a role in our corrective exercise, or our improvement of the quality of movement of our clients and athletes. Now, the anterior oblique subsystem plays a role in two of our major dysfunctions. First off, in upper body dysfunction. That's those individuals who have a downwardly rotated and anteriorly tipped scapula, as well as internal rotation of the shoulders, often also have an increased kyphosis in their thoracic spine and overactivity of their anterior oblique subsystem. In the case of these individuals, we don't want to do anything with the anterior oblique subsystem. That means if we can get away with it, we're also going to take things like planks, crunches, and chops out of their core exercise, because the last thing we want to do is increase activity here. Now, in those individuals with a lumbopelvic hip complex dysfunction, specifically an anterior pelvic tilt, now we have underactivity of the anterior oblique subsystem. In fact, we have underactivity of both the anterior oblique subsystem and the posterior oblique subsystem. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and release and stretch our short hypertonic structures. We're then going to do isolated activation for our long underactive structures. So we're going to fix the pieces first, and then we're going to use the exercises that I'm about to talk about to start integrating those pieces back together and increase activity of a muscle synergy. I'm going to have my friend Laura come up and help me demonstrate some of the exercises that we would use to help correct underactivity of the anterior oblique subsystem. Now, once again, it's external oblique, abdominal fascia, contralateral adductor. The first thing we would have Laura do, all right, and Laura does have an anterior pelvic tilt that we've been working on, probably the first thing I'd have her do is a static chop pattern to start increasing activity here. Right? So in a static chop pattern, she has to use her legs to stabilize, keep her glutes squeezed to correct the anterior pelvic tilt, and then it's the resistance of that band wanting to pull her out this way that starts increasing activity here. The next thing I might use is just a standing press pattern. Same thing. She has to use her glutes to stabilize, correct her pelvic position, and then that pushing this way creates a much longer lever arm and a lot more force for her anterior oblique subsystem to support. The first dynamic integrated exercise that we use is actually going to be a step up to press. So I'm going to have Laura go ahead and demonstrate this exercise. She's going to grab these bands here. Alright, and what I want you to do, Laura, is I want you to go ahead and step up, stabilize, squeeze your glute, tilt your bum under, draw in, and then go ahead and press forward. Alright, stabilize, and press. And you guys can see the increase in activity and all of this musculature on the front half of her kinetic chain. Good. Press. Now Laura's got this down pretty good. I might start trying to progress this exercise. The first thing I'm going to have Laura do is go ahead and put this handle down. So now Laura doesn't just have to support this way, but now she's also got to support the fact that just one band is going to want to turn her out. Notice that I use the arm opposite of the leg that she's using to step up on the step up. So let's go ahead and see that one. Step up, step up. Go ahead, step up. anything, guys, make sure that you have somebody reach for you, which is a good cue. We want somebody either leaning forward slightly or maybe turning in slightly. The last thing we want to see is Laura kind of pushing and then turning out. All right, go ahead and step back. Good. And the next progression we could utilize is we could actually go transverse plane to unilateral step up. So now we start turned out, and I'm forcing Laura to use her anterior oblique subsystem to support, turn her in, stabilize, and then press. Let's see that one more time. So rather than turning before you step up, I want you to keep that foot planted and then turn with this leg. Good. And then up. Good. All right. Nice and slow all the way back down. Good. All right. Make sure you turn back. One more turn. Push. And then release the rotation and step back to your beginning position. Good. So guys, just to recap the anterior oblique subsystem. Anterior oblique subsystem, external oblique, abdominal fascia, adductor. Helps to stabilize our anterior kinetic chain. Is underactive in a lumbo-pelvic hip complex, specifically an anterior pelvic tilt. And we're going to use exercises that have legs with a push to start integrating that subsystem back into our movement patterns. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you.